Thank you.
Hi, I'm Debbie W. from Northern California. I began going to CoDA in 1988. I'm a grateful recovering codependent. I just want to say that I believe that unconditional love is what heals us. And I just want you to know that I love you already because I've learned to love myself. So in CoDA, in Northern California, the 30 questions came through in 2008. We used them and put them on our website, and they were used by thousands of people. And now they've been introduced to the world, and we're now using the 40 questions and introducing that to CoDA World. The 40 questions is a book study for working steps 4 and step 5 using our CoDA Blue Book as a reference. In step 4, we're really making a commitment to stop condemning ourselves, to love ourselves as God loves us. Step 5 is about learning to become authentic, honest, and vulnerable by sharing our process and our insights with God, ourselves, and another human being. Next slide, please. In the history of the 40 questions is since 2008, thousands of CoDA members from all over the world have been informally using the 30 and 40 questions as baby steps to get started working the steps. The CoDA Blue Book has all the steps from 1 through 12. Even though there haven't been specific questions developed all the way through yet, many CoDA members that I work with continue through the book to work the rest of the steps. I just want to say when I work with my sponsee, we'll read one paragraph. We'll say, what did I get out of reading that just now? And we'll share for a couple minutes, and then we'll read the next paragraph. In 2018, the 30 questions were introduced and then formally endorsed as CoDA literature during the CoDA World Service Conference in 2019. The 40 questions were introduced and provisionally accepted at CoDA World CoDA Service Conference in August of 2022. As such, we now have 1 year to look over them, try them out, and make suggestions and corrections. So it's kind of a draft. When you see the 40 questions, you'll see draft right across the text. Hopefully the 40 questions will receive full approval from CoDA World in 2023 and become a valuable addition to our CoDA endorsed literature. Next slide, please.
I'm not seeing any slides. Sorry for interrupting. Is anybody else seeing it? Maybe it's just me.
I see them on my screen.
I see the slides.
I see the slides.
I see them.
Okay, thanks, you guys. I'll figure it out. Thanks. Sorry about that.
So how to use the 40 questions. There are many ways to work step 4 and 5 in CoDA. There is no right or wrong way to work the steps. Everyone's working in their own way and at their own pace in guidance from their loving higher power. We have a blue book, a green book, pamphlets, booklets, and an abundance of CoDA approved literature at CORE. And the CORE website is where you can order all that literature. And we lovingly are offering the 40 questions as just another tool. Next slide, please. We hope that the 40 questions will be a gentle but effective approach to discovering what may be standing in the way of having healthy and loving relationships with others and ourselves. By sharing our insights and our written answers for each question with our sponsor or co-sponsor or even a step study group, We're also completing a mini step 5. Next slide, please. In the 40 questions, we are introducing 7 major areas of inner healing. 1, developing healthy boundaries, which I believe is the foundation of our recovery. 2, using healthy communication skills. 3, loving ourselves unconditionally. 4, doing our grief work and re-experiencing our healing and re-experiencing our original pain and healing through that. Everything that was stuffed down, we're doing our grieving. And step 5, reparenting our inner child. I enjoy that so much. My inner child is now, instead of sad and lonely, she's happy and silly. And number 6 is integrating our disowned parts, finding where we are saying, oh, I'll never be like that, and then blaming other people in our lives. When I looked inside, I found out that I was just as stubborn and judgmental and harsh as the other people that I was pointing my finger at. Number 7, developing positive self-worth. And as we work through the 40 questions, we find ourselves healing in all these 7 areas. Next slide, please. I've developed a little pie chart with these 7 healing areas, and I kind of look at it as a game show. Like, my purpose of healing is to find inner peace. And around this pie chart, we have the 7 areas of healing. And when I'm in a situation, I say, higher power, where are you showing me that I need to heal? And it's like spin the wheel and spin the peace heart and find out which area I need to grow. So be patient and be diligent. As we continue working the 40 questions, we will see ourselves healing in all these areas. Next slide, please. So in the 40 questions, we're suggesting that you create a self-care kit. And in the self-care kit, we put in uplifting, loving messages to ourselves in order to learn how to love ourselves unconditionally, learning how to talk in a way that's gentle and humorous and forgiving. Next slide, please. Another suggestion in the 40 questions is to have a recovery toolbox, and we can add valuable tools such as respectful detachment, setting healthy boundaries, and practicing healthy communication skills. Next slide, please. The CoDA Blue Book, which I call the Blue Book, is written by members of CoDA sharing their experience, strength, and hope. I see it as cheesecake. It's so rich. Every sentence and every paragraph is so rich. Sometimes one sentence will be all that I can meditate on that day. Sometimes it's just best to consume the information in the big book in small bites, and I read it over and over again with my sponsees, and we meditate on it and see how higher power is speaking through the experience, strength, and hope of the CoDA members that wrote the Blue Book. Next slide, please. In the CoDA Blue Book, I was in CoDA for 10 years before I actually read the Blue Book. I know that we didn't have the Blue Book for a while, and I was so familiar with all the other literature that I postponed reading it. But when I finally discovered the power of the concept of a spiritual dilemma, I realized that it was about our relationships. And chapter 2 helped me see how I was putting relationships out of order. When we work steps 1, 2, and 3, it shows us how to trust a power greater than ourselves. And that's number 1 priority. Working steps 4, 5, 6, and 7 develops a healthy relationship with ourselves. And that's relationship priority number 2. Working steps 8 and 9 helps us heal our relationships with others in our lives. And that's relationship priority number 3. And working steps 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis to the best of our ability as maintenance steps. It gives us the consistency as we practice our newly learned spiritual principles in all our affairs. Next slide, please. So to reiterate, in chapter 2, we learned that our codependency is a spiritual dilemma as we either try to make other people our higher power or we try to be the higher power. In chapter 2, it shows us that when we put our higher power first, then our relationships are in a healthy, loving balance and in alignment. And then chapter 5, we find answers to questions that have been hard to relate to, cunning, baffling, and powerful. But these answers can help us understand why our codependency is confusing and hard to recognize. Next slide, please. What is learning to love the self? As I see learning to love the self, I came into the program as a doormat, totally resentful and angry because I had not learned how to set healthy boundaries and to experiencing life in a healthy way. The person that I was in relationship with was selfish and self-centered, and we were living in the extremes. When I'm learning to love the self, we're striving to find a healthy balance between the extremes of selfishness and selflessness. And so as I'm a doormat and I start can you go back a slide? As I'm a doormat and I start setting healthy boundaries, it looks like I'm moving in the direction of being selfish, but I'm really moving in the direction of self-love into the balance. So I'm always asking my higher power, where am I? Am I between selfish and selfless, and finding that healthy balance? Next slide, please. What is the difference between self-image, self-esteem, and self-worth? I struggled with that when I was trying to figure it out and working with my sponsor and working with my sponsees. And this certainly can be confusing. So this is my part. This is my piece I'm sharing, that this is how I see it. First, our self-image is the name of God within us. The great I am. It's unchanging and it's always the same. It's always been and it always will be. I am always loved unconditionally by my higher power, whether I believe it or not. I believe that my codependency is caused by believing a lie, and that is that I'm not enough. However, the great I am never changes within me. I am responsible, though, for the words that come out of my consciousness or my mouth, for what I add on to the I am. So I'm always watching what I say and being impeccable with my words. I am responsible for saying, I am happy, I am sad, I am wonderful, I am enough, I'm not enough. And that's how I see self-image. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the I am, the name of God within me. That's just me. Next slide, please. What's the self-esteem? I heard that a lot is written about it, but I see self-esteem as a thermometer because it always changes. It goes up, it goes down. If I get an A on a math test, it's high. If I get a D, it's low. and I feel bad. So my self-esteem could go up and go down depending on whether I make a mistake. However, my self-esteem is not who I am. It's going to go up and down if I get good results and low when I make mistakes. We make mistakes, but we are not a mistake. That's so powerful. Here's my picture of what I see. Self-esteem, it's got to be progress, not perfection, and accepting myself just the way I am, and always trying. Next slide, please. Self-worth, as I see it, is self-actualization and a manifestation of my self-worth. If my belief in myself, if I set goals, healthy goals, and strive to achieve them with the help of my higher power, I'm going to start accomplishing things. Progress, not perfection. Baby steps, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back sometimes, but eventually I have my credit score improves, my bills are paid off, I start having lovely things around me that bring me joy, and bringing people in my life that are meaningful and worthwhile. And to me, I see that as the self-actualization, the manifestation of self-worth. Next slide, please. So as we set goals, which would be like the trunk of the tree, and out of the goals is the effects, we can say, I did it, and we can manifest the positive self-worth. Next slide, please. So this is my idea of how to explain to myself and to my sponsees how I can learn to love the self. But knowing that I am is the name of God within me, connects me with source and with spirit and with a power greater than myself. Next slide, please. So, as we're working the 40 questions, let's just begin. I've stopped being afraid of step 4. I thought I would be writing about step 4 for the next 95 years in my journal, but breaking down the questions and little baby steps really worked for me. So let's just begin. Let's show up for ourselves. Let's start working the steps. Let's stop all condemnation of ourselves and others, and let's be aware of the richness of self. I want to just let you know, where are the 40 questions available? They have a link on the CoDA.org website. We can drop this into the chat. We're also asking, please, please, please go to the 40 questions feedback form. It's a Google Doc form, and we will submit the link in the CoDA chat. The 40 questions, as we go forward throughout this year, will have the feedback and suggestions if there's typos, if there's concepts that aren't clear, if there's things that need to be improved or suggestions. This is really the place to put the feedback so that we can take it to our CoDA service conference in July of 2023 in Houston this coming July. Next slide, please. Just want to make you aware of other CoDA links that are helpful. We have
Gracias. Lo tengo que llevar a un lugar porque ya está bien sucio. Gracias.
Okay, go ahead.
We have a beautiful 1-minute CoDA service announcement that can be used as attraction, not promotion. It's at our CoDA YouTube channel, and it's a great place to, can you go back forward one? There you go. Thank you so much. The CoDA YouTube link is a wonderful place to start newcomers. And then on the CoDA service materials on the CoDA.org website is the 12 tips for sponsors, sponsoring others, and what that looks like. That's a very valuable tool to get started. The 30 questions are on the service materials also on CoDA.org website. There's also a history of the 30 questions, how they came to be. That's on the fellowship forum. And the history of the 40 questions is also on the fellowship forum. If you need to get in touch with me, I do have a email address, debbiew.recovery@gmail.com if you need to get in touch with me. We are happy to present this material. So hopeful that codependence recovery can bring us what we need to be precious and free. So my new motto is precious and free 2023. I love you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Debbie. Thanks for that. And we will try to put some of the information in the chat. So if we can go back to the agenda. Thank you, Debbie.